Talk more about it now with Phaswane. Let's talk more about the markets, my apologies, with Phaswane Mphahlele, Senior Portfolio Manager at Makwe Fund Managers. Phaswane, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. The market was deep in the red today, as well as all the indexes. Is this all due to the credit downgrade of the USA?
Afternoon, Melissa, and to viewers. Yes, partially I could say so. We saw markets locally and globally, they were all down. So JSE was down 2.7, led by resources mainly, down 3.7. And the risk was triggered partially by Fitch grading down the US from a AAA to a AA. And this is due to them having seen their fiscals having to expect it to grow further in the next 3 years, and governance were going to be even worse off. And considering that this is not surprising when you see that deficit spending having grown so much by 3.8% year on year, and that total debt growing as much as 2.5 higher than a country that should be in a recession, investors are beginning to worry because they know that the US cannot print out themselves out of an industrial recession. We are currently seeing where we saw recently from yesterday, we saw manufacturing PMIs coming out of China, coming out of the US, coming out of Euro, they're in contraction on a downward basis. And putting all this together, this is just saying that the money supply growth is going down. That means growth is going to go down, and therefore investors are just trying to get their money out in the meantime, gain some profits. And we see the dollar getting a bid, and the South African rand getting some weakness, sitting there at 18.50.
So the JSE announced a 10% increase in their interim profits. But just remind us again, what business activities does the JSE do?
So the JSE, that's the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. It's the operator of Africa's largest stock market. So they basically facilitate trading of various instruments, such as your shares, we're talking bonds, derivatives, amongst other instruments. And they also help business, giving them opportunity to actually list on their platform to raise capital by issuing shares to the public at large. And therefore, and also offering other services such as your clearing and settlement issues, and also giving investors some market data. So yes, their earnings did that's what they do mainly.
We will be chatting to the JSE CEO a bit later. Just shortly, private school group Kuros also saw a jump in their profits. Now, in the past, some parents were immigrating and others defaulting due to tough times. What is this jump attributed to?
So looking at Cairo as a private school business, they said in their trading statement that they expect the profits to rise by at least 16.5%. And I think the more attribution had to do more to do with the fact that the higher than expected inflation has basically made it easier for them to increase the annual fees. Together to do with that, their service costs should have been higher in terms of the transportations they offer to students, along with the boarding schools. So these fees have gone higher. I guess the business is getting something out of the earnings, and more to do with that, I think there's been more enrollment of students because we've seen currently the government facilities are not doing quite well for the population at large.
Thank you so much. And that was Phaswane Mphahlele, Senior Portfolio Manager at Makwe Fund Managers.